What if Ned Stark had named Stannis as the rightful king instead of trying to play politics? King's Landing would have drowned in fire and blood, because this one choice changes everything. The Raven never reached Renly. Not this time. In this world, Ned Stark does not hesitate. As the ink dries on Robert Baratheon's last will and testament, naming him protector of the realm, Ned signs and seals another letter, one that will burn the realm from Storm's End to the Wall. He names Stannis Baratheon as the true heir to the Iron Throne, the first of Robert's blood, and sends a message to Dragonstone immediately. No more hesitation. No more diplomacy. Just duty. But here's where it gets crazy, Stannis answers. At Dragonstone, the Red Woman smiles. Cersei Lannister never sees it coming. She thinks she has time to move her son onto the throne, to solidify her power, to eliminate Ned like a weed choking her golden garden. But by the time she learns what Ned has done, it's already too late. The Gold Cloaks haven't taken Red Keep yet. Littlefinger hasn't betrayed him. Joffrey hasn't seized the Iron Throne. Because Ned moves first. He doesn't try to negotiate. He doesn't approach Renly. He sends Ser Barristan tell me the truth, shows him Robert's sealed will, and reveals Joffrey's illegitimacy. And Ser Barristan, honor bound, disgusted by the Queen's treason, sides with Ned. One man, one sword, one legend. It starts small, a refusal to kneel to Joffrey. But in the Red Keep, small things are explosions. Varys vanishes. Littlefinger senses the wind turning. And when Ned arrests Cersei Lannister before she can flee or strike, the Game of Thrones turns upside down. Wait, what? Yes, he arrests Cersei, openly, publicly, on charges of treason and regicide. He has her locked in the black cells before anyone knows what's happening. Joffrey, screaming in the throne room. Tommen, crying. Myrcella, shaking. The Queen's Guard try to resist, but with Ser Barristan at Ned's side, they don't stand a chance. Meanwhile, down in the dungeons, Jaime Lannister waits. He doesn't know it yet, but his sister is about to be imprisoned, and his sword will never be enough to change that. Tywin Lannister receives word of Cersei's arrest just as he's marshaling his forces in the Westerlands. And when he hears that Stannis Baratheon is coming, his plans shatter, because Stannis isn't coming alone. Melisandre is with him. So is Davos. So are a fleet of ships and 5,000 men. And in this world, this darker, bloodier world, Stannis brings with him not just his claim, but his fury. Direct address. Guys, imagine this. King's Landing panicked. The Queen arrested. The boy king illegitimate. And the one man no one respects, Stannis, now has a straight path to the Iron Throne. But here's where it gets insane. Renly Baratheon? Outrage. Ned never reached out to him. He calls it betrayal. He crowns himself in Highgarden, backed by the full power of House Tyrell, and marches toward King's Landing with Grin, roses, and 100,000 sword behind him. The War of the Five Kings? Now it's the War of Brothers. Jon Arryn's death still casts its shadow. Lisa Arryn refuses to involve the Vale. Robb Stark is still in Winterfell, until word reaches him of his father's actions and the Queen's imprisonment. And the attack on Bran? Still unsolved. But for the moment, House Stark is winning. Yet there's tension. Ned doesn't trust the Red Woman. Her eyes follow him in the dark. She whispers of the prince who was promised and of kings made of ash. But Stannis, grim and resolute, listens. And here comes the emotional knife. Sansa Stark is still betrothed to Joffrey. He's not king anymore. He's a boy whose mother sits in a cell beneath the Red Keep. But Sansa's still caught between families, between expectations, and between dreams that are turning into dust. Arya? She's watching everything fall apart. And she's about to make a decision that no one sees coming. Hold up. Pause. Think about this. Cersei Lannister in chains. Joffrey Baratheon, screaming at his guards to release her. And Ned Stark? Standing beside Stannis, with the city gates about to be kicked in by two different armies. One flying the stag and the flaming heart. The other, a field of golden roses. This is no longer a game. It's a storm. By the time Renly reaches the Crownlands, the city is locked. The Gold Cloaks stand with Ned. The Red Keep is a fortress. And Stannis sails into Blackwater Bay, not to attack, but to take his throne. He demands a city surrender. Ned urges caution. He wants peace. He wants a trial for Cersei. He wants honor. Stannis wants obedience. He gives the city one day to open the gates. If not, he will burn it. And yes, you guessed it, Melisandre has already seen in the flames. Now imagine this moment. Renly outside the walls, Tyrell banners high, Stannis in the bay, fire ships ready, Ned Stark at the center, trying to hold a realm that's splitting apart in every direction. And Varys? He's vanished. Littlefinger? He's already writing to Tywin. Because even with Cersei in chains, the Lannisters will not forgive, not the fall of their queen, not the challenge to their name, and not the loss of the throne. The day Stannis Baratheon's ships appear in Blackwater Bay, King's Landing holds its breath. From the walls, the city watches as sails bearing the crowned stag ripple in the wind, and behind them, the flaming heart of Lawler burns bright on crimson banners. The small folk don't know what to think. One queen is in chains, another king sails into port, and yet a third camps beyond the fields with enough men to starve the city out. The realm is splintering, and all started with one letter, Ned Stark's letter. Inside the Red Keep, tension wraps around every hall like a noose. Stannis meets with Ned in the Tower of the Hand. Davos stands beside his king, silent but steady. Melisandre stands behind them, eyes glowing faintly in the torchlight. Her presence unsettles Ned more than any sword ever has. "I appreciate your honor, Lord Stark," Stannis begins, his voice like stone dragged across steel. "But I do not share your mercy. My brother has raised banners against me. The traitorous boy who calls himself king still breathes, and the whore who bore him rots in chains. Justice must be swift." Ned clenches his jaw. "Justice must be true, not rash. I will not see children burn for their parents' sins." Melisandre steps forward. "The flames demand sacrifice. The realm is full of shadows, Lord Stark. If they are not burned out, they will consume us all." "Wait, what? Is she talking about burning Joffrey?" "Yeah, she is." And Stannis isn't disagreeing. "Direct address." Guys, pause right here. Imagine being Ned. You've done everything right. You acted with honor, protected the realm, put the rightful heir in power. And now you're stuck between a fanatic with fire in her eyes and a king who's got zero interest in compromise. You thought the Lannisters were your biggest problem? Think again. Meanwhile, Renly sends a raven. He demands the city open its gates. He claims Stannis has no right. After all, he has the support of the Reach. He doesn't threaten war, not directly. But the subtext is clear. Open the gates or face us. Mace Tyrell pushes him to act. Loras whispers poison in his ear. And behind the smiles of the Tyrells lies ambition sharp enough to bleed the whole realm. Renly's camp is luxurious, full of banners and gold-plated armor. But make no mistake, they're preparing for siege. Inside the city, things fall apart quickly. The small council is shattered. Grand Maester Pycelle pleads for reason, but few listen. Littlefinger has disappeared. Varys returns just long enough to whisper into Ned's ear. "The city has many doors, my lord, and some of them are already open." And in the black cells, Cersei Lannister waits. She hasn't screamed, hasn't begged. She watches. She waits. And when Sansa visits her, against everyone's wishes, Cersei finally speaks. "You think you've won, little dove? You think men like Stannis rule with honor? He'll burn your father's honor like kindling when the wind changes, just like he'll burn my son." Sansa flees in tears. But Cersei's words linger. Outside the city walls, Jaime Lannister rides like the wind. Tywin has ordered a full assault. Not yet, but soon. He sends ravens to the Freys, the Martells, and the Vale. And Robb Stark? He's already on the move. Because when a raven reaches Winterfell, carrying news that Ned has arrested Cersei and named Stannis, Robb knows what must come next. His sisters are in danger, and the realm is at war. Arya doesn't wait for him. She sneaks into the dungeons. Alone, armed with needle, she reaches Joffrey's cell. And here's where the script flips completely. Direct address. "Okay, stop. Stop. You are not ready for this. Because what happens next will split this timeline in half, and probably blow your mind. Joffrey, once prince, now prisoner, is curled up on the stone floor. No crown, no guards, no power. Arya stands over him, silent. He doesn't recognize her at first. Then he does. "Please," he whispers. "I didn't mean—" She doesn't let him finish. Needle flashes, and Arya Stark becomes a girl who kills a king before he ever wears a crown. Boom! Word spreads like wildfire. Some whisper it was poison. Others say the Red Woman did it. But Ned knows the truth. And when he finds Arya, when he sees the blood on her hands and the fire in her eyes, he doesn't punish her. He hides her. He lies for her. Because in that moment, he understands the world he's tried to protect his daughters from is already here. And Arya, she's not afraid of it. Meanwhile, Stannis prepares for war. He blames Renly for Joffrey's death, calling it an assassin's trick. He threatens fire and blood if the gates do not open. He wants to purge the city, cleanse in flames. Melisandre whispers that Arya is touched by shadow. She asks for her. Ned says no. The city is boiling. Then at dawn, Renly attacks. Siege engines roll. The golden rose banners march. Arrows darken the skies. But Renly underestimates Stannis. Davos, commanding the fleet, burns half of Renly's supply ships before they even land. Stannis uses wildfire, small caches left behind by the Mad King, to incinerate parts of the outer camps. Ned rides to the front gates, trying to parley. He shouts for Renly to stand down. But Loras, furious, grief-stricken over Joffrey's death, convinced Stannis ordered it, orders a charge. The city erupts. Barristan Selmy leads the defense. The gold cloaks fight like hell. And for a moment, it looks like Stannis and Ned might hold the line. Then Ser Garland Tyrell breaks through the mud gate. Now listen, this next moment is critical. As Renly's men pour into the city, Melisandre steps forward. She calls for fire. Real fire. Sacrificial fire. And Stannis says yes. They light the pyres. The sky turns red. Flames rise over King's Landing. Smoke strangles the stars. And somewhere deep in the chaos, a shadow moves. A shadow with Stannis' face. And we're just getting started. The shadow moved like smoke through stone. No feet, no breath, no heartbeat, only purpose. It slipped past screaming soldiers and broken gates, over bodies burning with wildfire and banners soaked in blood. None could see it. None could stop it. When it reached Renly Baratheon's tent, the guards outside dropped mid-step. No wounds, no sound, just lifeless eyes staring at nothing. Inside, Renly sat in full armor, crown still shining, planning the final strike on the Red Keep. Loras paced behind him, furious, wild with rage over Joffrey's death. They argued about timing, about honor, about whether Renly should accept the throne now or wait until the city fell completely. And then Renly gasped. A blade of darkness pierced through his chest, straight through plate and bone and breath. He fell before Loras could scream. And just like that, another king died before his reign began. Direct address. Guys, are you still breathing? Because this is it. The war for throne is no longer political. It's supernatural. And if you thought Stannis was just a cold, brooding lord with a sense of justice, nah, he's the fire that burns the game itself. The Tyrell camp descends into chaos. Some flee. Others scream that it was sorcery. Loras doesn't grieve. He snaps. Grief turns into vengeance so quickly. He doesn't wait for orders. He leads a full assault on the city walls, fueled by heartbreak, hatred, and the belief that Stannis has killed his love. Inside the Red Keep, Ned watches it all unfold from the ramparts. His hands tremble, not from fear, but from realization. He knows. That wasn't a man. That wasn't justice. That was something else. And still, Stannis says nothing. The Lord of Dragonstone takes the throne room with no ceremony, no celebration. Cersei is still in the dungeons, her screams now replaced with silence. Tommen and Myrcella are placed under royal protection. The Lannister name is banned from court, but no coronation happens. Not yet, because King's Landing is bleeding. And Tywin Lannister, has begun his march. Hold up, this is important. While Stannis is tightening his grip on the city, Tywin is rallying the Westerlands. He's heard of Renly's death, Joffrey's, the Queen in chains, and now he knows the Baratheon brothers are either dead or tainted. So he doesn't just bring an army, he brings fire and vengeance. Back in the city, Arya is missing. Ned searches every corridor, every alley, even the tunnels below the Red Keep. She's vanished. The only clue she leaves behind is a whisper to a stable boy. I have one more name. She's hunting again. And in the shadows of King's Landing, a new name is whispered by spies and beggars and soldiers alike. Valum Morgulus. Meanwhile, Sansa has changed. She doesn't cry anymore. She doesn't dream of songs and princes. She watches the court with dead eyes. She hears Melisandre speak of destiny and sacrifice, and sees her father nod reluctantly. Too reluctantly. She realizes he's losing the fight, that even Ned Stark, the immovable mountain of honor, is cracking. Direct address. This is where it all hits. Ned chose the lawful heir. He followed the right path. He arrested the wicked, protected the innocent. And what did it get him? A city in ruins. Fire priests performing dark magic. His daughter disappearing into blood and shadows. And now Stannis wants more. He orders the execution of every known Lannister loyalist still in the city. Lords, merchants, squires, Pycelle, Lancel, even innocent retainers. Anyone who bent the knee to the bastard King Joffrey. Ned objects. He demands trials. Stannis says nothing and lets Melisandre decide. One by one, they burn, and that's when Robb Stark arrives. Winterfell's banners fly high as his army approaches from the north. He didn't come to pledge allegiance. He came for his sisters, for justice, for the head of the man who ordered Catelyn Stark's capture and held Sansa hostage. Ned stands between them at the gate. Father and son, reunited in the midst of a burning world. But there's no peace in their meeting, because Robb sees what the realm has become under Stannis, and he hates it. This is injustice, father. This is fear. And Ned has no reply. In secret, Robb and Arya reunite. She found him first, told him everything. What happened to Joffrey, to Renly, to Cersei. She tells him Stannis isn't the answer. That Melisandre watches her like she's another log for the pyre. That she is next. And that's when Robb makes a decision that could break the North and the realm forever. He begins making alliances of his own. He writes to Howland Reed, to the Vale, to Riverrun, not to fight Stannis directly, but to form a new realm, one where the North answers to no southern king, no fire god, no shadows. But before he can act, Melisandre comes to him in the night and says 4 chilling words. Your blood has power. Robb wakes in a sweat. The next morning, Ned confronts Stannis. He demands that the Red Woman leave the court, that no more executions take place without proof, without justice, without law. Stannis refuses. Your law failed this kingdom. And just like that, the alliance shatters. Now we got 3 factions in the city. Stannis and his fiery fanatics, Ned and the remnants of the old guard, and Robb, quietly planning a northern withdrawal. But beyond the city walls, Tywin Lannister crosses the Blackwater, and behind him, Ser Gregor Clegane. The mountain rides again. The horns sounded before the sun broke over the Blackwater. 3 blasts. Then silence. King's Landing stirred from its uneasy sleep. And before the bells could ring, the first stones from Tywin Lannister's trebuchets crashed against the city walls. The Lion had come, not to reclaim a throne, but to erase the insult of having a queen in chains and a son butchered like a pig in a cell. The flames of Stannis' vengeance had lit the sky. Now, Tywin would answer with steel. Inside the Red Keep, chaos fractured every corridor. Soldiers scrambled to man the defenses. Small folk ran toward the September, hoping for mercy from gods that no longer answered. And Ned Stark stood at the center of it all, surrounded by ashes, shadows, and a silence that could only mean one thing. War had returned to King's Landing. Stannis didn't flinch. He didn't pace or panic or shout. He ordered his fleet to hold the bay, his infantry to reinforce the gates, and Melisandre to ready her defenses. When Ned asked what that meant, She answered simply, "The night is long." But fire answers, "Direct address." "Okay, what would you do here? You're Ned Stark. You trusted the law. You backed the rightful heir. And now your capital is under siege in the most powerful army in the realm. Your allies burn prisoners alive, and your own son is quietly turning the North against everything you fought for. Tell me you don't feel trapped. Outside the city walls, Tywin split his force. One wing attacked the Lion Gate. The other pushed through the shattered remains of Renly's abandoned camps. He didn't call for surrender, didn't send terms, didn't care about Stannis' claim. He came to crush. And at the tip of that spear, the mountain. Ser Gregor Clegane cut through men like wheat. Every step he took painted the ground red. Lannister archers covered his charge, while siege towers rolled toward the walls under thick shields. Tywin wasn't going to break the city. He was going to rip it apart. And here's where it gets absolutely insane. Melisandre walks barefoot to the battlements. She looks to the sky, and then she sets it on fire. The wildfire caches buried beneath King's Landing, left over from Aerys' reign, ignite, not all at once, just enough. Controlled by her hand. Walls collapse. Siege towers erupt. Lannister men burn alive, screaming as green flame eats through flesh and steel alike. Even the mountain stumbles. But he doesn't die. He walks through it, burned, blistered, half mad, and keeps going. Now listen closely, because here's where everything shifts. Ned rides to the gate, personally, sword on his hip, not to fight, but to stop the slaughter. He knows what Melisandre just unleashed. It's what the Mad King dreamed of, what Jaime killed him to prevent. And now it's happening again. Ned opens the gates, not to surrender, but to talk. He steps out onto the battlefield alone, under banners of truce. Tywin sees him, and for the first time in years, Lord Tywin Lannister rides out in person. They meet between the corpses, between the fires, between the ghosts of two ruined kingdoms. "You think you wear honor like armor," Tywin growls, "but it will not stop my sword." "I'm not here to stop your sword," Ned replies. "I'm here to stop the war." They stare. Then Tywin laughs, cold, bitter, humorless. "There's no war, Lord Stark. Only punishment for what you did to my family." Joffrey's death still burns in his soul. Cersei's imprisonment is a wound to his pride. And Renly's murder by Shadow only confirms what he now believes. Stannis Baratheon is no king. He's a heretic, a butcher, a sorcerer. But Ned offers something unexpected. Take Cersei. Take Tommen. Take Myrcella. I'll release them, unharmed. In return, you leave the city. Tywin narrows his eyes. And the boy who killed my grandson? Ned doesn't answer. But both of them know the truth. Tywin smells blood. He wants revenge, not negotiation. The truce fails. Tywin rides away, giving the order to breach the gate by morning. And this is the moment Ned Stark breaks. He returns to the Red Keep with blood on his cloak and regret in his bones. He finds Arya waiting, hooded, hidden. She's ready to run. She knows what's coming. But Ned doesn't ask her to stay. He gives her gold, tells her to find Jon, and for the first time in his life, lies to protect her. Meanwhile, Robb is preparing his own play. He sends ravens to the Riverlands, to Dorne, to the Vale. He's not fighting for Stannis. He's not fighting for the Iron Throne. He's fighting for the North, to take it back, to hold it, to never bow again. Melisandre sees the betrayal. She warns Stannis that wolves are treacherous, that the Lion approaches, that the flames demand sacrifice. And Stannis, tired of hesitation, listens. He orders the arrest of Robb Stark. And when Ned hears of it, he draws his sword against his king. Direct address. You guys, this is it. Ned Stark versus Stannis Baratheon. The final break. The man who believed in law, now branded a traitor for standing against the madness he tried to stop. Are you Team Stark here? Or has Stannis gone too far? As dawn breaks, the Red Keep turns into a war zone. Stark men fight Baratheon loyalists in the halls. Barristan Selmy refuses to raise his sword. Davos tries to stop the bloodshed, but it's too late. Robb escapes during the chaos. but not before helping his father kill the guards trying to take him. Stannis finds Ned outside the throne room. They don't speak. They fight. Steel clashes. Honor against fire. Law against fury. Ned lands the first blow, but Stannis doesn't yield. The Red Woman watches, lips moving in silent prayer. And when it seems Stannis might fall, a shadow moves, the same kind that killed Renly. But this time, it stops. Melisandre gasps. The blood is wrong. The shadow vanishes, and Ned lands a final strike, knocking Stannis to the floor, blade at his throat. But he doesn't kill him. He walks away and declares before the court, there are no more kings, only ashes.
King's Landing smelled like smoke and silence. The war had paused, not ended, just paused, like a dying breath before the next scream. Ash drifted over the city like snow, blanketing broken stones, shattered gates, and the charred remnants of Lannister and Baratheon dead. There was no king on the Iron Throne, no voice from the September, no law in the streets. Ned Stark stood atop the Red Keep, blood on his armor, not all of it his. Behind him, Stannis Baratheon was carried away unconscious, alive, but broken. His sword hand shattered, his crown lost in the rubble. Melisandre had vanished from the battlements before anyone saw her leave. And the people? The small folk whispered a new name now. The Grey Hand. Not king. Not usurper. Not traitor. Just Ned. The man who'd tried to hold the storm together and failed. But he wasn't done. Direct address. Guys, imagine this. No king, no queen. Stannis is broken. Renly's dead. Joffrey's gone. The North is rising. The Reach is wounded. And now the Lion is about to pounce. What would you do if you were Ned? Because this next decision will change everything. Tywin Lannister did not wait. He launched his second assault by dusk, assuming Stannis was dead or dying. But what he found wasn't a weak city. It was a man ready to burn the game to the ground. Ned didn't defend the throne. He dismantled it. Literally. He ordered it taken apart. Melted down. No one will sit here again, he said, and the small folk watched in stunned silence as the symbol of power, the throne of swords, was reduced to slag. Tywin arrived at the gates to find not a king, but a warning. The war ends now, or the city burns with all of us. And somehow, that got his attention. He didn't trust Ned, but he respected him. Enough to halt the attack. Enough to offer a meeting under parley. They met in the throne room, or what was left of it. No banners. No crown. Just two men who had lost more than they'd gained. And between them, Tyrion. Yup. Tyrion Lannister had arrived, unexpectedly, riding ahead of his father's host. Varys smuggled him into the city during the siege, whispering of opportunity. Tyrion watched the throne melt and said one thing. About time someone broke the damn thing. He became the bridge. While Ned offered peace, Tyrion offered terms. Cersei, still alive in her cell, would be handed over in exchange for full withdrawal of the Lannister forces. Tommen and Myrcella would be returned unharmed. In return, no Lannister retaliation. No crown. No claim. Tywin hated every word of it. But Tyrion spoke truth. If you sack the city now, father, you'll rule over bones and plague. And no one will kneel to ash. The Lion backed down. Direct address. Wait, what? Yes, Tywin backed down. Not because of mercy, he had none, but because Tyrion outmaneuvered him. And Ned? He didn't win. He just didn't lose. And in Westeros, that's the best you can hope for. But while Westeros blinked in disbelief, across the narrow sea, a dragon screamed. Daenerys Targaryen had reached Qarth. Her dragons, small but growing, had hatched. And news of the war, the death of kings, the crumbling of thrones, it reached her. And she smiled. Because now there was no Robert. No Baratheon regime. No clear ruler. Just lords squabbling over rubble. The time is now, she told Ser Jorah. We will go to Westeros, not to beg, but to take. She began gathering ships. Meanwhile, back in Westeros, a new map formed. Ned Stark did not remain in King's Landing. He passed control of the city to a small council led by Tyrion Lannister and Ser Davos Seaworth. Not a king, not a ruler, a council. He refused the title of protector. Instead, he returned north, to Winterfell, to rebuild, to warn, because he'd seen what fire really meant, and he'd seen the shadows. Robb, now commanding full loyalty from the Rivellins, declared the North as independent. Not out of ambition, but survival. "We will not kneel to fire or shadow," he said. "The North remembers." And people began to whisper. Maybe the North had the right idea. Meanwhile, Arya had vanished again. Last seen boarding a ship in salt pans, with no name, no title, and a coin in her hand. Vala Morgulus. Sansa stayed behind, for now. She refused to return home. "I want to see what a world without thrones becomes," she said. And Stannis? He lived. But the fire was gone. Melisandre returned to him days later with a prophecy. Not of him, but of another. The prince was never you. And with that, she left him too. Direct address. So, here's the final question. What if Ned Stark chose Stannis? What if he stood by law, not charm? What if he acted before it was too late? We just saw what would happen. A throne melted. A city burned. A kingdom shattered. But maybe, just maybe, the realm survived. And across the sea, Daenerys sails toward a Westeros with no king. Only chaos. Only ruin. Only fire. Tell me in the comments, would you still call Ned honorable after all this? And do you think Daenerys will be any different? Or is the Game of Thrones destined to start all over again? Because in Westeros, nothing stays broken for long. Not even thrones.